Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the SimNFL show. Real talk about fake sports. I am your host and commissioner. You can call me Pierce. Today we are discussing all of the Week 4 action for the 2026 season of the Pro Football Sim over at SimSN. If you're unfamiliar, come check us out on the website and on Discord. We would love to have you. So Week 4 was an incredible week for SimNFL. There were 9 one-score games, including 2 that ended in overtime. We had a 31-point comeback, the largest in league history. We had a team break 60 points on offense. We had 2 defenses pitch shutouts. And of 7 unbeaten teams going into the week, 5 of them lost, leaving only 2 remaining. So we will talk about all of that and more in our Week 4 stats and summaries. Culminating in my choices for the players of the week. We'll do a quick injury update. And then, in honor of this incredible week of football that we had, we're going to take our first look at this season's heart rate index, which measures close games, which teams have been played in the most close games, and how they have fared in those games. So we will take a look at that very briefly, and then we will end with my preview for Week 5. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. So the first of our many close games was a divisional matchup between the Colts and the Jaguars. The Jaguars started off first with Howard finding Antonio Campaverde on 4 straight completions for a total of 52 yards. Ultimately, that led to a Hucon touchdown run, his first of the day, giving the Jaguars a 7-3 lead there in the first quarter. They extended their lead in the second. Howard again went 4 for 4. This time he found Barry Madruga 4 times for a total of 63 yards. Then he threw a touchdown pass to Jake Bolden after a missed extra point that left the score at 13-6. Madruga struck again before halftime. He had an 81-yard punt return that he took all the way to the Colts' 2-yard line. Hucon punched it in from there, and that made it 20-6. But then, first play, after getting the ball back, Taphorn found Mitchell Reynolds for a screen, and Reynolds took it all the way to the house, 69 yards for a touchdown. And just like that, the Colts were right back in at 20-13. And then Hucon took the ensuing kickoff and returned it 96 yards for a score. So we had 3 touchdowns in less than a minute of game time in this game. And then the hijinks continued in the second half. Jacksonville had a punt blocked that led to a short field for the Colts, and Mitchell Reynolds had his second touchdown of the game on a 24-yard touchdown run off an RPO. That brought the Jaguars' lead back down to 7 at 27-20. Fourth quarter, Reynolds had his third touchdown of the game on a 22-yard run. Colts got the lead for the first time, 30-27. Jacksonville got the ball with about 6.5 minutes left. Howard hit Madruga for 13. He hit Kahn for a pair of completions, 14 and 15 yards. Actually, Kahn's only 2 catches of the game right there on that critical drive. Then they ran the clock down to about 3 minutes to go and kicked a tying field goal from 30 yards out. The teams then traded punts until overtime. In the extra period, Jacksonville won the toss. Madruga promptly returned the kickoff all the way to the Colts' 5-yard line, setting up Benjamin Ray for a 20-yard game-winning field goal, and Jacksonville came away 33-30 was the final in that one. So 3 touchdowns and over 200 yards from scrimmage from Mitchell Reynolds on just 19 touches for the Colts. Hucon had 3 touchdowns, including 134 return yards. Barry Madruga, 244 return yards, setting up 2 critical scores for the Jaguars. So special teams being the X factor that they need to come away with the overtime win in this one. The Chiefs and the Chargers, another divisional matchup where the Chargers knocked out the first of our unbeatens and the previously undefeated Chiefs. On the Chargers' first drive, Rodriguez broke a 36-yard run, and that set up a touchdown run by Pedro Tavecchio from 2 yards out for the first points of the game. Later in the first, Chargers, Rodriguez converted a 4th and 1 with a 3-yard run, and that set up Nick Pounders for a 17-yard touchdown run. So all 3 backs getting significant time for the Chargers. They were up 14-0 at that point. In the second quarter, David Chop got things going, hit his tight end Van Slyke for 15. James Carter had a 24-yard carry, and then Chop found Chad Dolis for an 8-yard touchdown. That brought the score at that point to 17-10. In the third quarter, Chiefs back at it again. Carter, a 27-yard run, got them in range for a 45-yard field goal, cutting the lead down to 4. But the Chargers would respond. Aguilera finding Zach Beck for a 21-yard gain, and then finding McGuire for completions of 20 and 17. That set up Rodriguez finally getting his first rushing touchdown. Third rushing touchdown from the third different ball carrier for the Chargers. That was from 4 yards out, made it 24-13. Then Chop threw an interception to Benjamin Silva. Only the defense escaped, though, as the Chargers missed a field goal attempt off of that, so the lead stayed at 11. And then in the next drive, Chop found Angeles for 24 and then 11-yard completions. And then he had a 3-yard scramble that drew a roughness call for an additional 15 yards. That set up James Carter to run it in from 16 yards out for the touchdown. Chop hit Michael Walker for the 2-point conversion. And just like that, the Chargers' lead was down to 3 at 24-21. Kansas City got a stop and then drove to the Charger 38-yard line. But John Wall missed a 55-yarder that would have tied the game. That was about 9:35 to go. After a trade of punts, Chargers got the ball left with the 3-point lead and about 5 minutes left on the clock. They had an 8-play drive, critical to run down the clock. They got 3 first downs. And then with 1:13 left, kicked a 46-yard field goal. So still a 1-score game. But the Chiefs now needed a touchdown and had very little time to get it. Chop hit Van Slyke for 13. James Carter actually broke... or got a 30-yard catch, his one catch of the game. That put the ball at the Chargers' 25-yard line. Chiefs had time to run 2 plays, but were unable to find the end zone, and they fell to the Chargers for their first loss of the season. Harrison Rodriguez, 21 carries, 143 yards, and a score. James Carter, 14 carries, 123 yards, plus 30 yards through the air, and 1 touchdown for him. So great performances from the backs. Aguilera contributing 56 yards on the ground and 152 through the air on 12 of 17 passing, and the Chargers get the upset and dethrone the Chiefs from the ranks of the unbeaten, 27-21. In a wild finish, the likes of which we literally have never seen, the Lions came back from 31 points down and overcame 4 Randall Hansen interceptions to somehow win the game 35-34. So obviously, starting off, it was all Raiders. In the first quarter, James Hickson hit Blank for 23, then Cobb for 20, and then it was Milner getting a touchdown run from 7 yards out to start the scoring for the Raiders. In the second quarter, Hansen threw his first interception. This went to Kevin Cordova. That was at about midfield. But the Lions held. They got a big sack on Hickson on 3rd down to force a punt. And then in the third quarter, Hansen's second interception to Cordova again. That was on the second play after the second half started. So right off the bat, a second interception was returned to the 17-yard line. 1 play, Hickson to James Blank, 17-yard touchdown. And that made it 17-0 early in the third. But then the wheels really came off for the Lions. On the next drive, Hansen was sacked twice by Sylvester White. Then he threw a pick 6 to Malik Boyd, the Raiders' strong safety, that made it 24-0. The Lions' next drive didn't go anywhere, and Robert Richbo's punt was blocked, returned all the way to the 4-yard line, setting up Hickson to Cobbs, for a short touchdown pass. And so 3 scores in quick succession, and just like that, it was 31-0. Raiders looked like they were headed to a blowout. But the Lions finally got going. Bullock returned the ensuing kickoff to the Raiders' 21-yard line, and then caught a touchdown pass from Hansen a few plays later from 7 yards out to finally get the Lions on the board with 11 minutes left in the third quarter, 31-7. And then the next drive, James Hickson intercepted by James Stewart, who rumbled 44 yards, was knocked out at the Raider 1 yard line, and then Hansen punched it in himself from a yard out. So that made it 31-14, 2 quick scores for the Lions. Things were slow for the rest of the third quarter until on the final play, Mike Presley intercepted Hickson, took it to the house. Lions went for 2 and got it, and it was 31-22 at that point. And on the next drive, Milner for the Raiders was stripped by Josh Benson. Stewart recovered, and the Lions got a field goal, officially making it a 1-score game. But then in the fourth quarter, Hansen threw an interception to Malik Boyd, which led to a Raiders 38-yard field goal. So the lead was back to 9 at 34-25 with under 10 minutes to go. It looked like maybe the Raiders would hold on. But then in the fourth quarter, with the ball, Raiders got called for offensive pass interference. And then Hickson was sacked all the way back at his 3-yard line. So they had to punt the ball away, and the Lions got excellent field position, starting on the Vegas side of the field. And 9 plays later, Zin Nevin hit a 38-yard field goal to bring it to 34-28, making it again a 1-score game. Vegas went 3 and out, and then Detroit on the second play of their next drive, Richard Bianchi broke a 48-yard touchdown run. By far his biggest play of the game. Otherwise he had 10 carries for 6 yards, but he broke out for this 48-yard touchdown when they needed it. Extra point gave them the lead for the first time with about 3:10 to go. Vegas ran 3 plays on their next drive. They lost 8 yards. They punted because there was still a couple minutes left. Lions went 3 and out, but they were able to milk the clock all the way down to 27 seconds. And Raiders could do nothing with those last gasps. And so, despite the 31-0 lead, the Lions came back and won 35-34. Lots of points off of turnovers in this game. We also had big returns, blocked punts. So defense and special teams, turning the ball over, making short fields, or just scoring themselves, ultimately made the difference in this one. So Kevin Cordova and Malik Boyd had 2 interceptions each for the Raiders. Boyd had a pick 6. Mike Presley had a pick 6 and 4 defended passes for the Lions. And so a surprising, unlikely victory for the Lions, completing the comeback and winning this game by 1. Another close game, this was a cross-conference between the Seahawks and the Steelers, ended with the Seahawks winning. Scoring started here in the second quarter, when Seattle got a fortunate call, a defensive pass interference on Gomez Rodriguez. Then Jeremiah West found Joe Edmonds for a 13-yard gain, Taylor Allen for another 13, ultimately hit Ronald Gita for an 11-yard touchdown to open the scoring there in the second quarter. Before the half, Pittsburgh would finally get on the board. Morris found his tight end McKinney for 11 and 14 yards. And then just before the clock ran out, they were in range for a 45-yard field goal, which they made to go into the half with at least a few points. Then in the third quarter, Morris, after a 6-yard run, was hit and fumbled. Fumble was recovered by Seahawks Carlos Mateo. Then West found Edmonds for 16. But a big TFL, McGee had a 5-yard loss, and then West took a 10-yard sack from Robert Berry, which pushed Seattle completely out of field goal range, so they were not able to get any points off of that. On the next drive, Robert Morris found Daniel Ennis for an 18-yard conversion on 3rd and 14. Then Morris ran it, first for 36 yards and then for a 9-yard touchdown, putting Pittsburgh into the lead 10-7. Later in the third quarter, Pittsburgh would extend that lead with a drive that had 6 straight runs, including a 28-yard Morris scamper and Danny Kipnis finding the end zone from 4 yards out, making it 17-7. Going into the fourth now, Seattle, Jeremiah West found Gita again, a 42-yard gain that would ultimately lead to a field goal, bringing it to 17-10 Seahawks, still trailing. But then a Morris interception at midfield by Daniel Mendoza put them in great position. They got a couple first downs, and Walker got them another field goal, making it 17-13 with 6:49 to go. Steelers, though, still had the lead, and Morris found Alex Williams for a 27-yard gain to get them into the red zone. But then they were pushed back out after an illegal block penalty, lost them 15 yards, forced to settle for a field goal, extending the lead back to 7 with about 3:25 to go. But then West led an 8-play, 75-yard drive. He went 7 for 7 on that critical drive for, get this, 79 yards because there was a false start. So even though they started the drive at the 25, they then had to go back to the 20. And West accounted for 79 of those last 80 yards, completing 7 straight passes, ending with a 10-yard touchdown to Terrence Hoffman. And with seconds left, the extra point tied it at 20. Pittsburgh actually won the toss to get the ball first in overtime, but after a holding penalty and a tackle for loss, they went backward. And then the ensuing punt, the Seahawks returned to their own 48-yard line. So with great field position, Jeremiah West hit Edmonds for 17, hit Hoffman for 13. That set Walker up for his third field goal of the day, and he nailed it from 31 yards out, giving the Seahawks the walk-off victory in overtime. Jeremiah West ultimately 32 of 43 for 319 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Morris 123 yards through the air, 165 on the ground, had a touchdown, but a couple of giveaways from him. Robert Berry had 3 sacks, another great performance from that Steelers defensive line. But it was the Seahawks with Jeremiah West tying it up late and then winning it in overtime to come away with this victory. Another wild finish. The Eagles finally got a monkey off their back, beating the Washington Commanders for the first time in franchise history, 30-26. Early, it looked like all the luck was on Washington's side. They converted a 3rd and 16 with Morrison finding Covarrubias for an 18-yard completion. Then they converted a 3rd and 24 on the same drive with another completion to Covarrubias for 28. Ultimately led to a 48-yard field goal and a 3-0 lead. Later, Aaron Poole threw his first interception to William Stevens. Washington drove down to the Eagle 4-yard line. They lost 12 yards on a disastrous screen pass, ultimately gave them another field goal out of that drive as well. The next Washington drive, Morrison hit right for 15, Rodrigo Gonzalez for 14, getting them in range for a 3rd field goal and a 9-0 lead. The Eagles were holding tough and would eventually get on the board themselves. Poole hit Gilberto Silva for a 19-yard gain to convert a 3rd and 11. Found Silva again for 18, and then Rashawn Alsadek, punched it in from 2 yards out to cut the lead to 9-7. Ensuing drive, Washington, Stephen Tabbert ran it for 34. Then Morrison had 3 straight completions to 3 different receivers for 34 total yards, ending with a 5-yard touchdown to Covarrubias, who had a fantastic game. 16-7 was the lead at that point, as Washington finally found the end zone. Later in the second quarter, Philadelphia went for a 4th and 15 from midfield. They were determined to take Randy Espino out of the game, but they failed. Morrison found Gonzalez for a pair of 16-yard completions, then Covarrubias for another 16. That set up Luke Trahan for a 2-yard touchdown run and a 23-7 lead. Into the second half now. Early in the third quarter, Alsadek broke a 28-yard run. And then Poole ran it for 17, and then Alsadek a 7-yard touchdown, closing the lead to 9. And then they kept the momentum with Nate Simeon intercepting Morrison and returning it to the Washington 26. That led to a Poole to Ronald Spencer 2-yard touchdown pass. And the Eagles were within a score at 23-21. Washington would add to that lead in the fourth quarter. Morrison finding Gonzalez for 12, Covarrubias for 28, leading to a short field goal. Later, Philadelphia was unable to score, but they had a punt that pinned Washington at their own 8-yard line. Morris completed a 17-yard pass, so you would think they had plenty of space there, 1st and 10 on their own 25. But then Mark Soto had a 3-yard sack, and a wild screen pass to Steven Tabbert lost 15 yards. That put the ball at the 7-yard line. And then Morrison was sacked by defensive tackle Cuevas for a 7-yard loss, leading to a safety. So a bizarre sequence in which the Eagles then got back to within 26-23 and got the ball back. They drove to the Washington 30-yard line, set up for a game-tying field goal, which Eli Obata missed with 5:07 to go. Commanders looked like they might escape. They start driving the ball. Morrison hits Luke Trahan for 17, hits Gonzalez for another 18, then Trahan again for 5, then Trahan hit by Simeon and fumbles, recovered by free safety Leonard Vaughn. Eagles get the ball down 3 with 2:29 to go. Aaron Poole gets started. He hits Matthew Lee for 15. Lee then fumbles after being hit by Miller. But Gilberto Silva is incredibly somehow there to fall on the ball for the Eagles and maintain possession. Undeterred, Poole goes right back to Lee for another 25-yard gain. He hits Ronald Spencer for 39 yards. And then Spencer again for the 9-yard go-ahead touchdown with 26 seconds left to go. Morrison gets one final heave. He hits Gonzalez for a 28-yard gain, but it's not enough as they are stopped short, and the Eagles are victorious for the first time over the Commanders with a wild comeback 30-26. Aaron Poole, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Nate Simeon with a forced fumble and an interception. Jerome Morrison, 31 of 51 attempted passes, 332 yards, a touchdown, and pick, as the Eagles come away with the win there. On Monday Night Football, in our only battle of the unbeatens this week, the Broncos came out ahead of the Rams 26-21. Broncos still starting Rashawn Lyons over Peter London, and Lyons gets the win. Rams started off first. On their very first drive, Avila hits Dawson for a 42-yard gain, Baldwin for 19, then Kerry Slamba, his tight end, for a 4-yard touchdown. Denver would respond with Lions finding Thomas Gezik out of the backfield for a 34-yard gain. That led to a 50-yard field goal. They would later add a second field goal after a George Kent interception of Avila, bringing it to 7-6. Later in the first quarter, it was Lions' turn to throw a pick. This one, Jason Bumbarger. Avila quickly turned that into points, hitting Anthony Larry for 13, and then Baldwin for an 11-yard touchdown. But credit to him, Lions would respond for the Broncos. He hit Stelly for 21, Grady for 13. That led to a Ryan Johnson 13-yard reception for a touchdown. And just like that, it was 14-13. Let's see. Lions threw another interception in the second quarter. That one was by Darrell Lee. It looked like Chad Bruce was going to bail the Broncos out with a 10-yard sack of Avila. But the Rams suddenly converted a 3rd and 23 with a 25-yard completion to Anthony Larry, who then did fumble the ball when he was hit, but he recovered himself. So they still got the first down. Avila had 5 more completions on that drive, and then Dawson ran it in from 3 yards out, making it 21-13. Rams up. And the Rams would get another drive before the end of the first half. They drive all the way down to the Broncos 19, but they would run out of time and would not get any more points before the half. In the third quarter, Avila threw an interception to George Kent, which led to a field goal. Broncos got a couple of field goals in the quarter, making it up to 21-19. And then after the teams traded a few punts into the fourth quarter, Denver put together an 8-play, 77-yard drive with Lyons finding his tight end Carmine Rhodes for a 9-yard touchdown pass to take the lead 26-21 with just over 3 minutes to go. The Rams then drove to midfield, but a huge play, Russell Garvin sacked Avila for an 11-yard loss, forcing a 4th and 21, which the Rams were not able to convert. So the Broncos took over, ran out the clock, and Rashawn Lyons had yet another victory as a Bronco. 26-21 is the final. 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks for Lions. A couple of picks by George Kent. Mario Cisneros, fantastic day for the Rams. 6 tackles for loss. 5.5 tackles for loss from Darrell Lee, plus a pass breakup and interception. Broncos ultimately take the win here. As for the rest of the Week 4 scoreboard, Max Smith had 15 carries for 134 rushing yards to lead Tampa Bay past San Francisco on Thursday night in a battle of rookie quarterbacks. Miami hung 62 on the Cincinnati Bengals, with Hammonds going 27 of 37 for 348 yards and 4 touchdowns with no interceptions. Jeremy Moreland had 3 interceptions for the Miami defense as well. The Jets beat the Buffalo Bills 35-21. Jesse Knoll, 25 of 34, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick for him. Cleveland scored the first 20 points of the game and then held on through the second half, defeating Minnesota 20-19. That game featured a combined 4 interceptions, 5 fumbles, 2 of which were lost, 17 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks, with the Browns ultimately emerging from that comedy of errors with a 1-point victory. Green Bay blanked Baltimore 33-0. Ravens, in week 2 of their scheme change, had trouble moving the ball. Garibay, no such issues, 31 of 39, 313 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Another shutout, the Giants beat New England 17-0. Giants held New England under 200 total yards. Carolina, big statement win against previously undefeated Tennessee, winning 31-6, the final. Link was 29 of 47, 296 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Atlanta beat Houston 20-6. This one was tied at 6 late in the fourth quarter when Jose Padilla had a foot injury and was taken out. Isaiah Plawecki, last year's 7th round draft pick for the Falcons, came in and led 2 touchdown drives. He ended up 5 of 7 for 99 passing yards and a passing touchdown. Again, led his second scoring drive as well. And pushed the Falcons to a 20-6 victory. Padilla's out for at least a couple more weeks, so Plawecki is going to get a chance to start next week for the first time in his career. Dallas scored the final 34 points of this game against the Bears, ultimately pulling away for a big win. Vladimir Dawson, 29 carries, 176 yards, and a touchdown with 1 fumble. So yeah, it was 16-10 late into the third quarter, but then Dallas put it all together and pulled away for the big win. Arizona moves to 3-1, defeating New Orleans Saints 14-10. Puna Edwards, 20 of 32, 142 yards, a touchdown and a pick. The Saints actually crossed midfield 4 times in the final 20 minutes, but were unable to get any points from either of those drives. And the last one ended with an interception at the Cardinals' 41-yard line with 26 seconds left. So Cardinals bend but don't break and hang on to defeat the Saints and move up to 3-1. So for my players of the week, again, Hammond's fantastic day for Miami with his 4 touchdowns and no turnovers. Vladimir Dawson, 176 yards for Dallas. Mitchell Reynolds, 19 touches, over 200 yards, and 3 touches for the Colts. And Ramek Phelps continuing a fantastic season for him. 12 catches, 123 yards, and a touchdown for the Packers. On the defensive side, Robert Berry, 6 tackles for loss, including 3 sacks for the Steelers. Neil Henry has been an absolute wrecking ball in the middle of that line. An additional 5 tackles for loss from him, including 2 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. 2 interceptions for Kevin Cordova, 3 for Jeremy Moreland, and then Darrell Lee, as we mentioned, all over the field. 5.5 tackles for loss, 8 total, a pass breakup, and an interception for him as well. So, congratulations to these 9 players on being named my players of the week for week 4. For a quick injury update, you can see in italics the new injuries that we are tracking. As we mentioned, Jose Padilla with that dislocated foot. Another 3 weeks he'll be out. So the Falcons will presumably be starting Plawecki for those 3 weeks. We will see what he can do with this golden opportunity. John Hendrickson, tight end for the Bengals, has a high ankle sprain. He will miss next week. Christopher Rogers, new free agent acquisition for the Browns at linebacker, pulled a hamstring. He'll be out for 4 weeks. Nagel and Ellswick and Poku still out for their respective teams. Serious injuries, all 3 of those. Miami is out without Corey Brockers with his shoulder injury for at least 4 weeks. We'll see if that slows down that very potent offense. And then Matthew 1T Madden for the Giants, having a shoulder injury. He will be out next week for them. So, as I mentioned, in honor of a wild week of football, I wanted to revisit my heart rate index, which is a high-level look at who plays in close games and how close those are. It's a pretty simple system. Any game that goes into overtime gets the maximum amount of points, which is 3. Any game decided by a field goal or less gets 2 points. Any game decided by a touchdown or less that doesn't fall into the first 2 categories gets 1 point. Now, obviously, that's not perfect. There's a lot that can happen at the end of the game that can change things. You can have games that are pretty one-sided, and then one team catches up in garbage time. So the final score isn't really indicative. Similarly, as we saw with the Cowboys and Bears, you can have a game that's very close for a long time, and then somebody breaks away at the end. So that might not get points in this index when it maybe should. But I don't have time to manually review and score every single game, even in just the Pro Sim. So this is a nice, simple, high-level comparison and a look at, over the long haul, who plays in close games and how they do. And we had a lot of those this week. In fact, if you total up everything from week 4, we had 15 points, essentially, worth of games this week in terms of our close games. The highest we ever had in 2025, and I did track the entire regular season, was 14 points. It only happened once. So for the record, the admittedly short records that I have, this is quantifiably the most exciting week of football we've had in a long time, and that's before you consider again the comebacks and the other wild headlines. But looking at just these first 4 weeks of this season, here is what we see. Each dot on here is a team, and there could be multiple teams per dots because again we're only 4 weeks in. But at the bottom here we see the total index, the total number of points that the teams have earned in 4 weeks of play. And then on the y-axis, we see their win percentage in those close games. So there are 5 teams that have played particularly close so far. They've earned 5 points. A couple of those, Jacksonville and Seattle, have played in overtime games, so that's how they're able to get there in only 2 games. And then you have Detroit as well. And then you have the Eagles and Buccaneers, who have all 4 of their games so far this season have been 1-score games. So just looking at it briefly, so Detroit 3-0 in close games so far this season. They beat the Eagles by 8. They beat Carolina by 3. And then they beat the Raiders by 1, just now on this crazy comeback. So definitely the most fortunate team, winning some excellent close games. 3-0 with that heart rate index of 5 total. Jacksonville beat Houston by 1 and then beat Indianapolis in overtime. And then Seattle beat Atlanta by 3 and Pittsburgh by 3 in overtime. So those 3 teams all undefeated in these close games so far. Philadelphia, far more of a mixed bag, but extremely exciting. The 8-point loss to Detroit, as we talked about. The miracle victory over the Jets, where it looked like they would lose at the last second. Then it got a kick return touchdown to flip the script. A 4-point win there. 3-point loss to the Tennessee Titans, and just now a 4-point victory over Washington. So 2-2, splitting 4 very exciting games. But I think the most impressive thing about that for the Eagles is that when you take away the 4 games they've played, those opponents are otherwise 10-2 on the season. So that's Detroit, the New York Jets, Tennessee, and Washington. So not counting the 4 games those teams played against the Eagles, they are combined 10-2. So an impressive performance for the Eagles, escaping with 2 wins out of 4, getting their way up to 500 so far in the season, despite the cardiac nature of their season so far. And then Tampa Bay also played in 4 close games. They had a 3-point loss to Arizona, a 7-point loss to Houston, a 4-point loss to New Orleans, and then finally breaking through on Thursday night this week with a 6-point victory over the 49ers. So 4 very close games, 1 victory. The downside for Tampa Bay, of course, is that in contrast with the Eagles, when you take out the 4 Buccaneers games, their opponents are a combined 2-10. Arizona is the only team they've played that has beaten anyone else. So they gave Houston their 1 win, they've given the Saints their 1 win, and they defeated the 49ers, who are still winless. So definitely not the same caliber of opponent as the Eagles have faced. But at the end of the day, the final score is all that matters. You can't choose who you play. It doesn't matter how much you win by. And Tampa Bay has won one of their 4 very exciting games so far this season. So this is something I plug into my system every single week. We'll probably revisit it at least once more over the course of the season here on the SimNFL show. So coming up in week 5, we're going to start things off on Thursday night with Tennessee going to Kansas City to play the Chiefs, a pair of previous unbeatens, knocked from those ranks and looking to get back to their winning ways. Should be a good contest. Another more AFC action, the Jets going to Cleveland to play the Browns, another pair of 3-1 teams looking to keep pace in a competitive AFC. And then also in the Sunday noon slot, we've got Detroit at Minnesota for an NFC North black and blue battle. In the afternoon, we have Denver going to Vegas to play the Raiders, and then Arizona going to LA to play the Rams, a pair of 3-1 teams looking for NFC West supremacy. Sunday night, Miami goes to Atlanta to face Plawecki, the second-year, 7th-round pick, filling in for Padilla. He's going to have all he can handle with that Dolphins defense, but he will be at home in Atlanta on Sunday night. And then Monday night, Chicago is at Green Bay, the second of our NFC North contests for this week. Should be a good one. We hope you tune in. But that is everything I have for this edition of the SimNFL show. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. And as I say to all users in all of our sims, good luck and have fun.